the gap. If you want to change an answer, move another answer into the gap. If you want to leave the question unanswered, move the question back. And for some questions, you need to move an answer into a gap on a diagram. At the end of the listening test, you'll have 2 minutes to check all of your answers. The tests will automatically stop when the time finishes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick Anthony Gonzalez, and I'll be your host for this monthly IDP IELTS writing workshop with our returning IELTS expert, Jacqueline Fisher. And of course, my co-hosts from Thailand, we have Rudy Karn. We have from Singapore, Miss Lilette. We have also from Singapore, Miss Sarah. Then we also have Bashin Nituri from Malaysia and Sir Ngadon from Vietnam. For first-time joiner, let me give you some quick information about our IELTS expert. Jacqueline Fisher has been an IELTS expert and teacher and trainer for more than a decade. Armed with an in-depth understanding of IELTS, she has helped hundreds of people from across Asia to prepare well of it. Today, Jacqueline will be walking you through IELTS writing for academic and general training. So keep your ears open for some amazing tips. Without further ado, let us pass over to Jacqueline. Welcome back, Jackie.
Hi, thank you so much, Patrick, for that introduction. And hi, everybody. I don't know how many people were here with us on Monday evening. So I think maybe I'm seeing some of you again. Do you want to let me know in the chat? Were you here on Monday? Monday, we talked about all the IELTS tests. Yeah, I think some people were. Hi, Nishant. Yes, okay, great. Oh, quite a lot of people. Okay, so some of this will be a little bit of review, but we will go a lot more in depth into the, lots of people. Oh, some people are first time, that's fine, either way. Yes, I see people are telling me where they're from too. I see some people from, wow, someone from Libya, Iraq. That's amazing. You're really from far away. I see people closer to the region, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand. It's lovely to have you. So I'm actually not in Sydney. I'm in very sunny Singapore when I look out my window. So yeah, but I was born in Australia, so you can probably hear a little bit from my accent. And of course, rather homesick. So I just put that photo there to remind me. Oh, someone's here from Australia. Emily. Oh, where are you, I wonder? Okay, so it's very nice whether you're coming here again after Monday or whether this is the first time. It's great to be with you this evening. So tonight we're really going to focus on the writing test because when I asked people on Monday, most people were worried about that test. And, you know, there is quite a lot to do in that test, in the writing test. So we'll dig deep and explore that this evening. So yeah, so as Patrick very kindly said, I've been working with IELTS for more than 10 years, coming up to 15 years, I think, but I still enjoy it very much. So it's, you know, really a great pleasure for me to share tips and ideas. And really, this is your session. So feel free to ask me anything, you know, any concerns you have or worries. That's what I'm here for. Okay, so let's get into it. So yeah, as I mentioned, please, ask me any questions you may have. And I'll also stay at the end and answer questions if we haven't covered them. We have quite a lot of people in the webinar, so sometimes the questions go really fast and I miss them. So just ask me again if I miss your question. Also, I can't really see the Q&A box until the end. So if you put the questions in the chat box, I have a much better chance of seeing them. All right, so I don't think tonight we're going to do any polls. Sometimes we do, but let me see. We'll see if we do that or not. Let me check. Are any of the polls ready? Because we sometimes have one that kind of asks people about themselves. Oh, there it is. Okay, our poll is there. Yeah, so if you don't mind filling in that poll, that would be awesome. So if you can't see the poll, I'll tell you the questions. Have you taken the test before? And what's the minimum score you need? And then also, which test are you taking, academic or general? Yeah. So is that poll, can you all see the poll? Yes, okay. I can't see any results yet. Okay, so yeah, please let me know and then we can find out. Done? Wonder why I can't see the results. Ah, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna, let's have a look at the results. So most of you have not done it, but some of you have. So if you've done it before and you've got a question, you just weren't sure about something, please feel free to ask. And I see most of you haven't, so you're really in the right place. So we're going to explore all about the writing test today. Now, minimum band score, most people need between a 7 and 8. Some people need a higher and some people need lower. Great. And then, okay, majority of people are doing academic tests. So wonderful. We're going to cover both academic and general. So I just know that okay, most of you are academic. And if you're not sure, that's fine too, but it is important to know before you do the test. So really academic is usually for people who are going to study in an English speaking institution or university. And general is usually for migration, sometimes for work. So just check. Whoever has asked you to do IELTS, ask them whether they want academic or general. Yeah, great. Okay, awesome. So, all right, so let's get into the writing now. Can you remember from Monday, or if you know, how long is this writing test? So IELTS, we have to do 4 tests actually. So writing is just one of them. And how long is that? It's an hour, that's right. And how many things do we have to do? How many tasks? We have to do 2 tasks, that's right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And writing is the 3rd test you do. You do listening, reading, and then writing, and then it finishes. Okay, so you kind of maybe a little bit tired by the time you do the writing, so you do need to build up your skills for the writing test. Okay, so as we said, 1 hour, 2 tasks. So this task 1 is different for academic and general. So for academic, you are describing something in words. So you're given something visual and you have to use words to describe that. And the second thing you're doing is writing an essay. And then general, you have a bit of an easier job. Your task 1 is a letter. Yes, so we don't really write so many letters these days, but that's what we're doing. And then we're also writing an essay. Now, I asked you this on Monday, but I'm going to ask again. If you've written an essay in the past year, could you write yes in the chat? If you've written an essay? Quite a lot of people have written an essay. Good, so you're all in a good position. Some people like me, it's been a long time since we've written an essay. So I'm going to kind of review a way to do it, to go about it. But if you have your own way of doing it, it works for you, then that's fine as well. Yeah, everything I say tonight, these are just suggestions. When we understand what the examiners want, to give the examiners what they want. Yeah, okay, so I think many of you have written an essay, so that's great. So you're already quite expert. So before we talk, oh yes, computer or paper. Nowadays, the computer-based test is becoming very popular. Have you decided which one you're going to do? If you have, let me know in the chat again, whether it's computer. We have some paper, we have some computer mixture. It's the same test, completely the same content. The difference, there's a few differences. So you get your results faster with computer. So we got mixture, paper, computer, quite a few paper-based. And then, so you get your results faster when you do it on the computer, and you can do it more often, usually up to 7 days a week, depending on your country. Now, people always ask me, which one's better? Which one's easier? It's really not like that. It depends on you. So if you're really comfortable on a computer, you're good at typing, you can use a mouse, you know, you're comfortable with you navigating on a computer, then maybe computer-based is good for you. There is a word count when we do our writing on the computer. It counts the words. You can also copy and paste. Yeah, so those things are good, but you have to do all your tests on the computer. So you also have to read. In the reading test, you have to read on the screen. So you have to be comfortable with that. And if you're someone who's just not comfortable using a computer, then don't. Then do the paper-based. Yeah, but that one you have to write with a pen. But computer or paper, there's no spell check or grammar check, because that would be unfair, wouldn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it also depends. Some centers don't have computer delivered. It really depends where you are too. You're right. Okay, so we're going to talk first, before we start talking about task 1, task 2, it's really important to understand what the examiner is looking at when they read your writing. Okay, they only look at 4 things. And actually, how messy your writing is, that's not one of the things. So as long as they can read it, as long as it's legible, then it doesn't matter about how messy or neat your writing is. Can you remember the people who were here on Monday? The 4 things that the examiner is looking at. You want to put in the chat? What are the 4 things? Yes, people are saying grammar. Definitely grammar is one of the 4. Your vocabulary, yes, the words you use, and this includes your spelling. So for writing, spelling does matter. It's tough for a lot of us because we're not very good at spelling anymore. We've grown so used to spell check. Coherence, yes, that's right. And task achievement. Yeah. Fluency and coherence is for speaking. And for writing, we have something else. Yeah. Cohesion and coherence. We'll go through these. There was a question I just saw about the speaking, about doing it with a mask. So nowadays, I mean, this is about writing, but I'll just answer that briefly. In many countries now, you do your speaking, you come to the test center, but you speak into a computer, and the examiner is also speaking into a computer, but you can see the examiner, they can see you. Yeah, but in Singapore, we do it mask to mask. So we're a bit further away and we both wear masks, but the examiners are very used to wearing the mask now. And they're also used to understanding you when you speak with a mask. All right, so back to writing. We mentioned these 4 things. Yeah, so I'll briefly explain what we are, because we need to keep thinking of these when we write, because the examiner's looking at these. So first one is task achievement or task response. This means, did you answer the questions? And big tip in IELTS, just follow the instructions. Did you follow the instructions? Yeah, so that's the first one. Next one, this is coherence and cohesion. So this is a couple of things. When you write, you need nice separate paragraphs. You must have clear paragraphs. Good to put a line, blank line in between. Usually 4 or 5 paragraphs, about 4 to 6 lines long for each paragraph. So that's important. Then we must also use linking words to make it flow nicely. So it's easy for the examiner to read the flow. Yeah, so that's cohesion and coherence. The structure also is very important here. Next one, vocab, lexical resource. So this is your vocab. Can you use more unusual words? When we write, we use in the essay, we have to use more formal language. Can you use more formal language? Can you use it correctly? Yeah. And then the last one, this scary grammar. Okay, so 2 parts to the grammar. One, of course, is being correct. So if you want a 7, probably you need to be about 70 to 75% correct with your grammar. But also there's this range. So range is how complex are your sentences? How many parts do your sentences have? Yeah, so I mean, I can say something like, I love Australia. I miss it a lot. Yeah. Yeah, so I could say that's two simple sentences, and that's fine. But I could try to join that together. Yeah, so I could say, or maybe I have to change the meaning a bit. I could say something like, even though I love Australia very much, it's really quite difficult for me to travel there at the moment. Can you see that that's a longer sentence, more complex sentence? Yeah, so we want to try to do this. How? Things like, however, whereas, while, even though, although, despite, all of these things will help to give us more complex sentences. Also, if you can use things like with an if. So if COVID disappears, I will fly back to Australia. An if sentence is more complex. Or can you use could, would, should, might, may? We call these modal verbs. If you can use those in sentences, that's also more complex. Okay, so it doesn't have to be so complex. But this is what the examiners are looking for. Why? Because each of these are marked out of 9 and each are equal. They're all equal, 25%. So to get a 7 for your writing, you need to have 7 for task achievement or task response, 7 for your structure, cohesion and coherence, 7 for the vocab, and 7 for the grammar. Yeah, and 7, what does it mean? 7 means good. In IELTS, what's the perfect score? Is it a 10? Is that perfect? No, a 9 is perfect. Yeah. So 7 is quite a high score still. Yeah, but 9 is a perfect score. All right, so I know that's a little bit technical, but we need to keep these 4 things in mind because this is what we're trying to do when we write. We have to keep thinking about these. All right, so let's start to talk about general writing first. So some of you are not doing general, quite a lot of you actually. So up to you. You can stay for this bit. It'll be about 15 minutes or so. Or if you want to like go get a drink, have a snack, have an early snack for dinner, and then come back in 15 minutes, we'll talk about academic. Yeah, so let's get into the general task 1. Now, can you remind me what you're doing for your general task 1? What are you writing? So remember, IELTS, we have writing, we have two tasks, and this is task 1. It's a letter, exactly. Now, how many words minimum and how long should you spend? 150 words exactly, and how long? 20 minutes, yeah. So nobody will control the time. You have to manage the time, but it is suggested that you only spend 20 minutes because it's not worth as much as the task 2. Okay, so let's get into this letter. So letters we don't really write letters anymore, do we? So most important thing to remember when we write this letter is it must be complete sentences. You cannot use bullet points, yeah, or notes. You must write full sentences, very important. All right, so this is what it looks like. If you were here on Monday, this bit's the same, but don't worry, there's lots of other different things. This is just to get us started. So when you get your topic, it looks like this. It tells you how to start. So here we say, dear sir or madam. Yeah, and then it's divided up like this. So we have the description, then we have the task, what you have to do, and then we have these subtasks, which are bullets. Yeah, so when you do your letter, you have 3 jobs. Okay, it's very important to remember. Tone, purpose, bullets. So let's go through these. First is tone. So how do we get the tone? I've told you up here what the tone is, but it won't say that in the real test. You have to figure out the tone. So it tells how we look at how we start. Dear sir or madam. Okay, so that tells us something. Then over here, we look at who we are writing to. write a letter to the manager of the public transport company. Yeah, so that's who. Do we know this person? No, right? We don't know them. And we're told to start dear sir or madam. So that's semi-formal, isn't it? It's more formal. Okay, so that's going to be our tone all the way through. We shouldn't change that tone. The other thing with the letter is it must sound real. Like for the general test, they're trying to make sure you can write as you will need to in Canada, England, New Zealand, wherever. Okay, so it has to sound real, like you would really send the letter. And just remember that people in these countries, they're usually not quite as formal. In Asia, we are a bit more formal. Okay, so you can think more like professional, how you might write at work, like a work email, really. Okay, so we have to write to this manager of public transport. We start dear sir or madam. So that's tone. Second one is purpose. Why are we writing this letter? We always find the purpose up here in the description. This is the overall purpose. So there have been some problems with public transport. What's our purpose? Yeah, Ignatius, we don't actually share the slides, but feel free to take screenshots or photos. Go ahead, no worries. Oh, okay, they are going to, or you can send a request, sorry. Maybe that was a change, sorry. Okay, so, yeah, so what's our purpose? Why are we writing? We're writing to share about some of the issues with public transport, aren't we? Yeah, because we're concerned about it. Yeah. Right, so we need to be able to state what the purpose is, and it's always from up in this top bit. Okay, now the next thing, so we've got tone, we've got purpose. Our next job is to think about the bullets. How many bullets are there? 3. There are always 3, okay? But we have to read them carefully so we understand. Describe the problems. Notice there's more than one. Explain how problems are affecting the public. Suggest what changes could be made. Yeah, what are bullets? Bullets are these 3 dots here. We call them bullet points or bullets. Yeah, so there are always 3. So describe the problems, how the problems are affecting the public, and what changes could be made. So this is our job. These are what we have to do. Okay, so always when you get the topic, spend some time working out those 3 things. The purpose, because that's going to be at the top, covering the 3 bullets, so looking at them carefully, bullet points, and then thinking about your tone. Okay, so let's have a look at a model. So remember we were told, dear sir or madam. So just don't change it. Just do what they tell you to do. Okay, so now the first paragraph, we will need to say the purpose. Can you spot the purpose? Where's the purpose? I am writing to draw your attention to. That's the purpose. Yeah, you need to say that in the first paragraph. But notice this part, I am a resident of Newtown. It's nice to start this way, to say who you are. You don't need to say your name, but you say who you are. So the person who's reading it knows, I'm a resident and I am writing to draw your attention. It's like some background or some context. It's a good thing to do at the start. Yeah, so that's our first paragraph, is our purpose. You can put, Berna, this is enough detail. You wouldn't say I'm a resident of Newtown and I live at this address and my house is very cute. That's too much detail. Yeah, but this is fine. This is enough. Good question. Okay, there's a question here. More clarification, semi-formal versus formal. Yeah, so you never have to really write formal in the IELTS essay. It's always semi-formal or professional is a good way to think about it. Don't be too formal, like, you know, I have the deepest gratitude. It is my great honor to, you know, all that language is very old-fashioned. I guess what I'm talking about too is old-fashioned. We still want to be modern in the way that we write. Yeah. Okay, so remember our first bullet point was the problems, more than one. So that will be our second paragraph. The first bullet point becomes the second paragraph. Can you spot the So that when they say problems, we have to list more than one, and it has to sound like a real one. So can you see the two? The roadworks have led to long delays. That's one problem. Where's the second problem? Yeah, here. Bus timetable, reduce the frequency of buses. New timetable. Yeah, exactly, the schedule Nurul. Good, so there are two problems, and this is a nice length. Can you see that we introduce these problems with some linking words? Remember I said for cohesion and coherence, we need to use linking words. So briefly is one. Can you see the second linking word? Furthermore. Yep, so this makes it flow nicely. So that's our first bullet point. So next paragraph, we'll talk about our second bullet point, which is the effect. This is a bit of a slightly longer paragraph. Okay, so the effect becomes very obvious, and we're saying when, weekdays and shopping hours. So public transport, so these are the effects. They have to be two, right? Now find it takes 20 minutes to travel. Can you see the second effect? Where's the second effect? Yeah. Drastic downturn in retail trade. So that's how the problems are affecting the public. Yep. So can you see the linker that introduces the second effect? Yeah, as well, right? Yep, great. So it makes it flow nicely. Now in this paragraph, there's some very nice vocabulary. So we have to try to put in some good vocabulary that sounds real. So we notice, right, drastic downturn. Very nice. Anything else that you think is quite nicely phrased? High level of public concern. I agree with you, Nurul. Sounds very nice. You could say, oh, people are worried. That's okay. I mean, it's not wrong. It's fine. But high level of public concern. Wow, that sounds very impressive. We want to try to impress, but it has to sound real. Yeah, so that's our second bullet point. Now, third bullet point was suggestions. Again, more than one, so two suggestions. So here's one. May I suggest buses be rerouted along the road? Can you see the next one? Yeah, recommend a return to the old weekend timetable. And I'll have a linker also. Okay. So, and then I'm sure these steps will be welcome. So that's the third bullet point. Then this paragraph is pointing to the next step. I look forward to hearing from you. So what's going to happen next? Then we have to sign off. Now we had dear sir or madam. So the matching closing, they need to match, is yours faithfully. So if you said lots of love, I mean, you wouldn't do that. But if you said, see you, that would sound weird, right? Yeah, it wouldn't sound natural. So yours faithfully, it matches the dear sir or madam. And then don't forget your name because it is a letter. So you need your name at the bottom. Oh, a comma. If you want a comma here, you can. Nowadays in modern writing, we just take it out. So if you want it, you can have it, but you don't have to have it. Optional. All right. So did you notice that for each of the bullets, there's kind of the same amount? Roughly the same amount of information for each of the bullet points. That's important. So it's sort of equal for each of the three. Also, you need to, as we see here, you need to make up your own details. So, you know, you have to add your own information so that it can reach 150 words. So please make it real, like this example. Don't make up sort of crazy, fantastic, you know, like, oh, there are hobbits on my bus. I don't know what to do. You know, that's not real. Although it's cute, don't do that because you won't get a good score. Best regards. Best regards is a bit informal if you're using dear sir or madam. Yeah, in writing convention, dear sir or madam goes with yours faithfully because you don't know that person. Respectfully yours is a bit, like, remember I said too formal? That doesn't sound natural. Remember, you're all wanting to go to these countries like Canada, New Zealand, and England. They don't really write like that. Sincerely yours is okay as well, but it doesn't sound quite natural, honestly speaking. So yours faithfully is actually the correct one to go with dear sir or madam, conventionally speaking. If you don't want to use it, you could use yours sincerely. Regards is a little bit informal for dear sir or madam. If you know the person and you know their name, you can use regards. Okay, let's keep going. Now, sometimes, you might forget one of the bullet points. You left out the suggestions. You just forgot. Don't do that, okay? You'll get 4 for your task achievement. You lose a lot of marks. So your tone is also really important. So you notice here, all the tone is kind of the same, a bit more formal, a bit more professional. And if you have weird tone, sometimes formal, sometimes informal, it will pull your score down to a 5. Yeah. So remember that what we always want to do is do this analysis at the start. Who are we writing to? And why are we writing? What's our purpose? What's our tone going to be? Cover all the bullets. And we usually have 5 paragraphs in the letter. So let's practice a little bit. So identifying the purpose. So just say this was what it said. You want your friend to come to your partner's surprise birthday party. What's our purpose here? You can usually say it with a to invite someone, Nico, that's right. Yep, to invite someone. Just to put one more. So we recently stayed in a hotel and the service was unsatisfactory. What's our purpose here? To complain, yeah, but be careful. You have to imagine that you'd really send that letter, so you can't be too crazy over the top. You have to imagine like you'd really do it. So complain or express disappointment. Yeah. Okay, you can use yours faithfully, Yongchao, if it's a formal letter. Oh, there's a comment that I speak too fast. Okay, I'm sorry. We have a lot to get through, so I can't really speak much slower than this. Yeah, I'll try, but we have so much to cover and we only have 2 hours. So really, like I always say, we could speak for 2 weeks really on everything with IELTS. So, okay, so we thought about the purpose. Let's think about the tone. So have a look at this. This is for that purpose of inviting. Remember, we're inviting someone to our partner's party. So what do you think of this tone? So who are we writing to? We're writing to a friend, aren't we? So what do you think about this tone? Yeah, so how is the tone when you read this? Yeah, Gabrielle, it's kind of too formal. This might be okay for like a, 50th wedding anniversary. That's like very formal occasion, but it's too formal for writing to a friend. So be careful. In some ways, writing the informal letter is a bit harder because we want to sound, the secret though, is you want to sound like you're talking, but it's in full sentences. Yeah, so have a look at this. Dear Anne, I hope all is well. I'm not sure if you remember, but Danny's big birthday is round the corner. Yes, he's going to hit the big 40. He says he doesn't want a party, but that's too bad. Yeah, so can you see it sounds like someone is talking, but you write it in sentences. Can you notice here as well? I'm, Danny's, he's. In an informal letter, you can do this. It's called contractions. Yeah, so the secret, yeah, that's right. So this is a letter to a friend. Yeah, so you keep that in mind if you get an informal one. It has to kind of sound like you're speaking. In an informal letter, you can also use these kinds of things. Hit the big 40, surprise, bash. Do you know what those are called? They're called idioms. So we don't really mean we're going to hit him. It means he's going to become 40. So you can use idioms in the informal letter. All right, let's look at another one, the complaining one. So what do you think about this tone for complaining? Not good. Why is it not good? Too harsh. Oh, that's interesting. I think that this one is too sorry. I'm very sorry to complain, but actually maybe the hotel did something very bad. So I think you need to be a bit more detached and probably a bit cooler like this. See, what do you think of this? Too apologetic, Phoebe. That's what I think too. Can you see how this second one is quite detached and very factual? This is a good tone to express your disappointment. Okay? Yes, better. All right. So now with your bullets, you have to be careful, your bullet points, you have to be careful that you cover them all equally. Okay, if we have a look at this one, we'll do the same analysis. Who are we writing to? Letter to lost property. So what's our tone going to be? Do we know them? No, right? So it's going to be more formal. Yeah. And then what's our purpose? Why are we writing? Why are we writing this? To ask for help, yes? To ask for assistance, that's right. Exactly. So let's have a quick look at the bullets. Describe what the briefcase looked like and what was in it. So be careful. Sometimes you get an and here. Make sure you do both parts. Yeah, otherwise you'll lose marks. So always be careful when you read the bullet points. Explain where you think you left it and what you want the lost property office to do. Okay, so these are our three things. What it looked like and what was inside, where you left it and what you want them to do. Now have a look at this answer. I mean, of course, you could probably argue that this can be improved here and there. I just want you to think about whether this answer is complete. Did it cover the 3 bullet points equally? Have a quick look. What do you think? So the bullet points were what it looked like and what was in it, where you left it and what you want them to do. But does it cover all the 3 bullet points with an equal amount of information? What do you think? The physical details of the briefcase are there. Black leather briefcase, silver buckle, name tag. I think that's fine. Yeah. The last bullet point, that's right. So the last bullet point was what you want them to do about it. So can you see here? It's only one line. It's my hope that the briefcase be returned to its rightful owner. That's a bit short compared to the other bullet points. This is not really enough. You could add some more information about maybe how they could contact you. I mean, your contact details, when they could reach you, something like that. That's right. Exactly. So there's not enough about the 3rd bullet point. So just want to make sure that you have an equal amount for each bullet point. Yep. Okay, now sometimes people, because you've got to reach 150 words, then you add in extra details to try to reach 150 words. But be careful, it must sound real and natural. Now, what's the problem with this one? Have a look. Some of it sounds funny, weird, too much detail. So what do you think is unnecessary detail? What is real and natural? What I mean by real and natural is that you would really send that letter. You would, like this applying for a job, you would actually really write it like that and really send it in the real world. That's what I mean. Yeah, so people are saying about the, I got too excited. No, we've had that one. Yeah, so this bit about next to the article on the talking plants, that's a bit too much detail, right? You don't need to add that, it's irrelevant. Yeah, the thing about the favorite book, maybe that's not necessary either. It might sound a bit strange when you're applying for a job. Yep, so just be careful. Try to make it, imagine that you're really writing that letter. Okay, so let's look at one more. Now this is, as we'll see, is different type. So let's do our 3 things. So it tells you to start dear ... And we write a letter to a friend. So what's our tone going to be here? Informal. Yes, that's right. So what do we do, dear ... Just make up a name, any name. But of course not Miss Smith, because it's your friend. I don't think we call our friends that. Yeah, so dear Freddie or whoever. Okay, so that's our tone. Now our purpose is up here. What's our purpose? Why are we writing? To do what? To look at, yeah, to ask for a favor, aren't we? We want to ask for a favor. Ask a friend to look after our house. That's right. Now, let's look at our bullets. Explain the situation. Okay, so what's going on? Tell your friend what needs to be done while you're away. Arrange to meet your friend. Okay, so this is quite a straightforward one. Let's have a look. So this is a model. So, dear Jane, now don't change it to hi, okay? They told you to start dear, so just do what they tell you. Seriously, do best in IELTS when you just follow the instructions. Okay, so dear Jane. Now see the closing? I use cheers, but you can use other things. If you don't like cheers, it's quite Australian. You can use like bye for now, see you soon, lots of love. All those are very good for friends. Yeah. What can I write for head of department? Okay, if they tell you to write to your lecturer, sometimes you get that kind of topic, write to your lecturer. Then you have a choice. You can decide whether you call that person dear Mr. Smith, or whether you know their first name, dear Tony or whatever. Yeah. There's no comma after cheers. Yeah, so this is modern style. I put one here, sorry, a bit inconsistent. We actually don't need the comma here and here anymore. But if you like it, it's fine. It's not wrong. You can have it or you can not have it. Both are fine. Okay, let's quickly go through this. So can you see our purpose? Now, this is the tricky part. Our purpose is we want to ask a favor. But if you say, dear Jane, I am writing to you to ask you for a favor, it sounds very weird. It's not how we talk to a friend. So imagine, so the secret, like I said, doing an informal letter, imagine that you're talking and then just write it down in full sentences. So can you see how it's done here? How is everything? I hope you're having a great week. As you know, I'm heading off on holiday next Monday for 3 glorious weeks. I'm wondering if you might be free to do me a favor. Okay, so here's the purpose. Not right at the start. We build up to it with some nice, like, pleasantries first. I'd be super grateful if you could look after the house. See how it... All right, so yeah, there's a question. What if it's longer than 150 words like this one? That's fine. There's no maximum. But please manage your time. And remember, this is not worth as much as task 2. Okay, so we don't want to make it too long. But if it's 200 words, that's fine, no problem. So that's our first bullet. There isn't really much to do, so don't worry. It would be fantastic if you could feed my cat. Can you see it sounds like someone's talking? He can get in and out of his house on his own. Oh, this is bullet point, what you need to do. Leave some food and water. Give him a bit of a pat. So can you see that we try to put in a bit more complicated vocabulary? While you're at the house, it would also be wonderful if you could check my plants and give them a drink if they're looking droopy or parched. So this is some nice vocabulary, but it still sounds natural for a friend. Yeah, would you be free to meet on Wednesday? Yeah, pretty sure you don't have any classes. So notice this contractions, don't, isn't, it's all fine. And you can use exclamation marks as well in an informal letter. Okay, so then we point to the next step. Could you give me a call to let me know if this won't be too much of a hassle? It'll be great to see you. See how it sounds like someone's talking? Feel free to take a photo or a screenshot if you wish. Yes, abbreviations. Nishant, I'm not sure what you mean by abbreviations. Maybe you can give me an example because I'm not sure. But you can't use texting language like LOL, yeah, ROFL. Don't use that because it's not writing a text. We still have to write in full sentences. So if that's what you mean, then don't do that. Okay. So we need to move on actually because we've got to talk about academic task 1. Now, so just... yeah, so these are some, so we've talked a lot about the structure and about answering the question, but we also do have to think about our vocab and our grammar. So this is just training you to start to spot mistakes. It's very good because you need to start doing this for yourself too. Can you find some mistakes in these sentences? Could be spelling. Used to, yeah, that's a grammar mistake. There's one more. Yes, accommodation. Very good. And there. Yeah, there is for when we own something. Yeah, like to show possession. But there as in the place is THERE. Okay, how about this one? Couple of things here too. Separate. This is a hard word to spell. That's right. There's one more. Maintenance. Exactly. Yep. Good. So if you can train yourselves to spot mistakes, fantastic. All right. So we have to analyze the task like we did. Look at the tone, purpose, bullets. Check the bullets whether they have plurals like problems. Then we have to talk about more than one problem. Your purpose needs to be up the top of the letter. We need paragraphs, usually 5 in the letter. So we round off, we look to the future. Okay, so remember the tone is really important. So getting whether it's formal or informal. Try not to copy the words in the topic too much. Use your own words. Just start as it tells you to start. No need for an address. And yes, make sure you match the opening with the closing. All right, so that's general task 1. Now you can all have a little rest and I'll probably be 15, 20 minutes with the academics. Academic people, I hope you're back. Oh, we have a poll. I forgot about my poll. So see if you can remember what we just covered. So which 3 things do you have to think about for your general task writing? Can you use texting language? Okay, so I'll just let this run a couple more seconds. Is there a word count? Yeah, if you do computer delivered, there is a word count for you. If you do paper-based, I'll tell you what to do later once everyone's together. I'll tell you what to do for that. All right, let's have a look at what you said. The 3 things you must do: your purpose, your tone, all the bullets. That's right. British spelling or American spelling, both are fine. Okay. Yes, it's not okay to use texting language in an informal letter. Don't do that. Okay. Need full words. It's fine if the letter doesn't sound realistic as long as I use a lot of impressive vocabulary. Yes, you're right. That's false. It should sound realistic. That's the most important thing. Informal letter, it's okay if I use contractions. Don't, can't. Yes, you're right. You can in an informal letter. Informal letter, you should use very formal phrases. This is a trick question. You should not. Remember, the formal letter is more like semi-formal or like business-like, professional, not so formal. Okay, great. All right, so academic people, here we go. Now, academic task 1. What do you have to do? Can you remember? What's your job? You have to describe something. That's right. A graph can be a chart, can be a table, could be a few different things. Yes, and how many words and how long? 150 words and 20 minutes. So the challenge here is we want to do this well, and we want to do it, cover everything, but we need to do it quickly. So it takes some time to train yourself up. What I suggest is when you first do your academic task 1, don't worry about the time. Take your time to do it properly and then practice getting faster. Because academic task 1, you have to do very specific things and we have to learn how to do it. Okay, so what we're doing is we are taking something visual and describing in words. So really the examiner should be able to draw it when they read what we wrote, they should be able to draw it. Okay, so let's have a look. This is what we did the other night. So this is a review, but don't worry, we'll look at some other ones too. Okay, so, right. So every time we do your academic task 1, this bit here is our job. Summarize the information, select and report. So we pull out the main features and compare. So we always have to do this. Summarize, pull out the main things, compare. Always our job. Now, you get this. Sometimes you have 2 things like this. Don't worry, don't panic. It's fine. So we have to work out what we're dealing with. So let's read this. The charts show the number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad 1985 to 1995, Australia's share of the Japanese tourist market. Okay, tourists traveling abroad, and then how many went to Australia. So I always ask myself some questions, and so I'll ask you. But you should ask yourself these questions when you do your task 1. So first, is this talking about past, present, or future? So this is talking about past, exactly. So it's going to affect the grammar that we use. Okay, now we have to look at these and spend a few minutes working out what's going on before we write. So maybe 2 minutes. First, we look at the vertical number in millions. So be careful. It's not 246, it's 2 million, right? Then we look at years, over 10 years. So we need to ask ourselves, overall, the overall trend, is it going up or is it going down? What? Which way? Up. So it's increasing for this first picture. Overall, I know there's some changes, but yeah, overall. So now we need to look at the start. We need to look at the end, and we need to look at the peak. 3 things. So start is where like maybe approximately 5 million. It's fine to say approximately. And then the end is what? How many? Approximately 15 million, maybe? Where's the peak? Which year is the peak? Yeah, it's the end. That's right. So this one, peak and end are the same. Now we have to see when it just goes up, up, up like this, the same trend, we don't have to report each year. We only have to pull out where it changes. So where does it change? Here, right? So we're going to have to mention this. It dropped back from what? About 11 million to 10 million. And then up again. Okay, so we're going to want to highlight this. All right, so now look at this one, 246, but this is percent visiting Australia. So how many tourists went to Australia? So again, we look at start, end, and peak. So start is very low, about 2%. End is what? About 6%. Now, where's the peak? Which year? 94. So we're going to want to mention that, right? Because it actually dropped back a tiny bit. And then there's another thing we're going to want to highlight, another interesting trend, isn't there? Oh, yeah, we want to mention this from where? 89 to 90. So always do this. Take some time to work out the main features, the things that you want to talk about. And now we need to write, because remember, we only have 20 minutes. So we have 3 rules or 3 things to focus on. We need an introduction. We need to describe the data with lots of numbers, and we need an overview. So we must have these 3 things. So let's think about the introduction. The fastest way is just rewrite it, change as many words as you can. Don't copy it because they are not your words. Okay, so you have to change the words. So here the charts, we have chart and graph, show, compare, number of Japanese tourists traveling abroad, the number of Japanese who spent their holidays overseas. So we're just saying same thing in a different way. Paraphrase. Okay, so now the next thing is what we call the overview. I actually like it here, second. Why? Because the examiner is looking for it. They're like, where's the overview? So it's good if you put it second for them. We can start with overall. It also shows the examiner that this is the overview. So in the overview, we just described the main trends. Remember, you said they were both going up, right? But we don't have any numbers. So as we can see here, despite relatively small population of Japanese tourists going to Australia, Japanese tourist market corresponded closely with the growth of Japanese tourism overseas generally. See, they both went up with the trebling of both. But there are no actual numbers. Yeah, it's just the overall trends. It's usually 1 or 2 sentences. Hey, now our next job is we have to describe everything with lots of numbers so that the examiner could draw it. Yeah, so, and when you get 2 things like this, the easiest way to do it is just describe this one in this paragraph, describe this one in this paragraph. That's the easiest way. All right, so let's go through. In 1985, only about 5 million Japanese traveled abroad, after which the number increased steadily. Can you see this language? It's very nice to use. But we're going to have to say what it increased to, right? By 1990, the figure had more than doubled to 11 million. Apart from a slight drop the following year, the upward trend continued until the end of the period when the numbers reached 15 million. So notice you don't have to describe every number. No, just where it changes. So then actually the examiner could draw it from this. Okay, now we'll look at this one. While Australia was the destination, so we start with under 2%. In 1985, the percentage had risen to over 6% by 1994. So here, that's the peak, isn't it? The proportion grew consistently. Nice language again, grew consistently, apart from a slight fall in 1990. And see, we say what the numbers are. You've got to say what the numbers are. After reaching its peak, which we already said was 6%, the percentage declined marginally to 6% in 1995, over 6%. Yeah, so you can see there's lots of numbers. There's one more job that we have to make sure we do. Do you remember? We have to compare. So in this description, there's some nice comparing language. The examiners are also looking for that. Can you see any of the comparing language? In this paragraph, there's at least two. While, yes, while is here, definitely. But what about up in this paragraph? After which. So this happened first, and then after which, it's comparing two things. Yeah, apart from as well. So this happened, and then apart from that. Yeah, so it's very important to include this comparing language. So things like apart from, whereas, while, in comparison, in contrast. Yeah, and so here we have apart from again as well. Yeah, so this is your job for the task one academic. So you have to get used to doing it and what the examiner's looking for. Okay, so first remember, we rewrite the topic. That's the introduction. Then we have our overview. Is there any data there? Any numbers? No, right? No numbers. And we just summarize everything in one sentence or two sentences. Yeah. And we usually start with overall or in general. Then we describe in detail with lots of numbers. And we have to say it went from this to this. So we can't just say increase steadily. We have to say, but luckily the next sentence they say to what? It went up to this. Yeah. And in this year. So remember that you must include from what to what. Very important. Yeah, so lots and lots of data. And then is there a conclusion? No, you don't need a conclusion in your task one unless you don't have enough words. Then you can write a short conclusion like summarizing everything. So remember, it's a minimum of 150 words, but there's no maximum. But remember the time. You only want to spend 20 minutes. Should you write percent as a symbol or a word? You can write it as a word, then you get, or you can write it as a symbol. It's up to you. If you write it as a word, actually, you get that word, 2%. So maybe you want to write it as a word, but either are fine. What are the prepositions that I can use when I'm going to give data? I'm not sure what you mean, Nayeon. Prepositions. From and to, it rose from this to this. Is that what you mean? Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Oops, sorry. Yeah. So from this number to this number, it doubled to this. Often from and to are used. But of course, in IELTS, we need to have some variety. So it's always good to say it in different ways. So if it went from 10 to 20, you could say it went from 10 to 20. But you could also say it, there's another way to say it, it doubled, right? So it's good to have different ways of saying. So Evelyn's asking synonyms for decrease and increase. Can anyone else think of other words for decrease and increase? It depends how fast. So it can rise, it can grow, it can drop. Yeah, it can decline. There's a great, it can jump up. It can plunge down. Yeah. Surge. Yes, very good. Wow. Lessen, escalate. All these are fantastic. Well, you guys are already experts, I think. Okay, good. So let's look at a different type. Frequently, you'll get a graph, either a line graph or a bar graph, but sometimes you don't. 2%. Okay, Emma's asking, does the word to and the word percent, that is actually two words. Yeah, so maybe you want to write it like that, you get more words. So, okay, let's have a look at this. Sometimes you get this, you don't get a graph. Don't panic. It's still the same technique. All right, so first thing, this part's always the same, isn't it? Summarize, select and report, compare. And first we need to read what's going on. Table below shows percentage of students who attended different types of secondary schools, 2000 to 2009. So again, my question, past, present, or future? It's past, yes. So you can write more than 150 words. Yes, you can. There's no maximum, but manage your time. You want to do this within 20 minutes because it's not worth as much. Maria's asking, should you have an empty line between each paragraph? I think that's better. It's clearer for the examiner than an indent, but it's up to you. There's a question about maps. I will talk about that at the end, okay? I saw your question. All right. Minimum number of words is 150. You must hit 150, okay? All right, so now we know we're dealing with the past and secondary schools. So now we have to analyze what's going on. Same thing. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 kinds of schools, and we have 3 different years. So we're looking for trends. The other thing with IELTS is we have to look for things that are the same and things that are different. And that is how we will organize our information. We have to think about how we organize our information. Okay, so let's look at specialist schools. What happened? Up or down? 12, 11, 10. Up or down? Yes, but only marginal, right? Very small decrease. Now, grammar schools, what happened? Up or down? Oh, dear. So we can say it went from 24% to 12, but we can also say it halved, right? It halved. Now, when it goes a continual fall, you can mention each number, but you don't really have to mention this middle one, actually, because it's the same trend. Now, volunteer schools, what happened? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that's a very significant drop, right? It's more than half. Yep. And then what about community schools? It's a huge increase, isn't it? It's almost 5 times increase. Yeah, so now we have to think about how we're going to group the information. So we would naturally want to talk about these 3 together because they're all falling, right? And then community, we talk about it separately because it's going up. Yeah, so let's have a look at a model. When we're learning how to do the task 1 academic, it's very good to look at models. It's actually the same for the essay and the letter. Models are really good because they show us the language, the structure, yeah, how we should organize our information. All right, so let's have a look at this one. Introduction, we just rewrote the topic using different words. Yeah, that's all. It's the fastest way. Now we have our overview. In general, we can see specialist grammar, voluntary control, experience declines. Whereas, remember the comparing language? Whereas community schools became the largest providers of secondary school education. Any numbers in your overview? Any numbers? Yeah, right. The overview has no numbers. So, and now we have to organize our information and with lots of numbers in the description. Okay, so to begin, proportion in voluntary control schools fell from just over half to only 20%. Yeah, so just over half. Remember, it was 52%. See here? Similarly, there's another comparing word. The relative number of children in grammar schools, which was just under 1/4. See, instead of saying 24%, which is okay, we can say it just under 1/4. It's more interesting. Dropped by half, right, in the same period. As for the specialist schools, the relatively small percentage of students attending this type of school, which was 12%, also fell, but not significantly. You could say to what, if you wanted to 10%. However, while the other 3, so here's some more comparing words, declined in importance, the opposite was the case of community schools. While only a small minority of 12% were educated in these schools in 2000, the figure increased to well over half. Yeah? So that's how you would do a table. You can write percent as 2 words, percent, or you can write it as 1 word, percent. One is British and one is American. So up to you which way you do it. Now, sometimes we get this, which is a process. Yes, so don't freak out. Yeah, if you get this, actually process is kind of easier for some people, but people always panic like, whoa, but actually it's not difficult. Yeah, so let's have a look at how to do the process. So first of all, same thing. The diagram below shows process bricks manufactured in building industry. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. Now we have to understand. So you have to spend a few minutes working out what's going on. So brick manufacturing, we have a digger and it's digging out clay, right? Then we go to the next step. There's a metal grid. The clay goes through there onto a roller. So we have to use all the words that are, and we have to talk about everything here. So after that, there's sand and water are added, and we have 2 options. We use this wire cutter to make bricks, or they go in a mold. I can't really enlarge this. You should have received some notes that were sent to you for this session. So it's in those notes. I can't actually make this bigger. Sorry. Oops. Yeah, so then, what's happened to my mouse has gone weird. Okay, so then after that, we go to the, down to the drying oven. Can you see that it's in the drying oven 24 to 48 hours? Oh dear, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, 24 to 48 hours. So we could say it that way, but we can also say it as 1 to 2 days, right? So that's maybe a more interesting way to say it. So then we move on to the kiln. So we have to talk about moderate temperature, high temperature, and then cooling, then packaging and delivery. Okay, so we have to mention all these things. Now, the thing about when you write the process is that people tend to say, and then, and then, and then. It gets a bit boring. Like, so try to say it in a different way. So we could say, and then we can say the following step, subsequently, after that. So don't keep repeating and then, and then, and then. What should we do if we're not sure of the name of the process? You just follow what's on here. But the trick is you try to change the words a little bit. I'll show you. When we look at the model, you'll see. So how do you do the overview? So people always like, oh, I don't know how to do the overview. Okay, we start the introduction, we just rewrite the topic, right? Overview, count how many steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can say approximately 7 steps, beginning with digging up the clay and ending with delivering the bricks. So see how I changed delivery to delivering? That makes it better and more interesting. All right, so let's have a look at the model. Yeah, so here we rewrite the topic. Diagram outlines how bricks are manufactured, extraction of raw clay to finished bricks. And then here, the overview they put at the end. You can do that. I prefer it second, but it can be here down at the end. Brick making process comprises 7 steps, different processes, refining and forming raw clay, drying and firing. Yeah. So that's one way. And then we see that all you do is you describe what happens. First, raw clay is extracted by a large digger. It's then refined by separating larger pieces from smaller ones with the metal grid. So we have to mention everything that's there. The refined clay is conveyed by a belt on rollers to be mixed with sand and water. Okay, so you can have a look at this in your notes, how they did it. Can you notice this kind of grammar? Is extracted, is refined. This is called passive. We use this a lot in the process. Yeah, so it's actually not that difficult to do the process, really. Just describe what's there. How to paraphrase and then. Yeah, okay, so instead of saying and then, you can say following this, subsequently, the next step, after that, yeah, things like that. Okay, so let's go through like a checklist for this task 1 academic, you have to have at least 150 words. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Lilette. Lilette has attached the handout for this session. So we must have that overview. And remember, the overview has no numbers. It's just kind of describing the overall trends in 1 or 2 sentences. We must spend time picking out the main information. And then when we have to organize it. So remember, with the table, we put the things that were the same together and the other one separate. So we have to work out how we're going to group it. Then we have to have lots of data so that the examiner could draw it or make the table or whatever. And remember, you're comparing whereas, while, in comparison, in contrast. And linking words. So usually those are the linking words that make it flow. Usually in the task 1 academic, there are maybe four paragraphs, usually maybe 5. Now, checking grammar and spelling. I'm going to talk about this when we talk about the essay, but we do need to leave a bit of time for that. And I'm also going to talk about counting words. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. Okay, so people sometimes forget. They just say it increased, it decreased. It decreased from what to what? Remember, we have to have lots of numbers. Now, we never interpret. So you'll never say, I think the community schools or the voluntary control schools, the numbers fell because everyone hates that kind of school, because the teachers are really bad. No, we never say why. We just describe what we said, what we just describe what we see. Yeah, so, and remember, we don't have to describe everything, just where it changes. But the process, yes, process, you have to describe everything. And we must have that overview, very important. Okay, so that was your task 1 academic. Whew, it's quite a lot to learn how to do, but once you get used to it, it's not too bad. Please look at models. Yeah, so here's a review about the task 1 academic. See what you remember. Just let it run for a few more seconds. Yeah, so the handout you received, I think it's changed somewhat. So it won't have all the slides. It will just have some models. Yeah. Oh, the map. Yes, I was going to talk about the map. Sorry, I forgot. Okay, let me just end this poll. Okay, let's have a look. Which of these should you not include? Interpretation, that's right, never interpret. It's important you cover every piece of data. No, that's right. Should you have a conclusion? Okay, you don't need a conclusion in your task 1, but if you need more words, you can have a conclusion. Now a map. Sometimes, very rarely in task 1 academic, you have a map. But usually with the map, they have like before and after. So your job is to find the changes. What things are the same and which things have changed over time. Okay, so that's what you will do with the map. And then with your overview, you will say, like, most of the changes are to the roads and the buildings, or there are 3 different changes. That can be like the overview. Then you describe the changes in detail. It's the same kind of thing. You have to describe what you see. Sometimes the map has north and south. Then you can use, like if it has that there. Otherwise, you can use to the left, to the right, to the top, to the bottom. But map is very rare. It doesn't come up very often. Now, pie charts, it's the same kind of thing. Usually with pie charts, you'll have 2. Or if maybe you just have 1, then you just describe what's there. And you can compare, like, which is the biggest, which is the smallest. Task 1 academic is always just describing what you see. Yep. Okay, now we need to move on. Oh dear, we're overrunning. We have so much to talk about with the essay, and this is going to take a while, so we better keep going. So your essay, this is the most important part of the writing test. It's more important than task 1 and task 2. How many words? 250 words. And how long do we have? We have 40 minutes. I saw someone's question that they thought they might want to write down some notes before they do their task 1. You could do that. You could write down, which things you think are key features, but be careful with the time. You've really got to manage the time. You don't want to spend more than 20 minutes because this task 2 is a lot more important. This is worth 66%. Yeah, so we want to really focus on this. So we've got 40 minutes to do this essay, and you want all those 40 minutes. Okay, so let's get into this essay. We're going to talk about it together because the only difference is the topics are a bit different for academic and general. Can you do the right task 2 first? Of course you can. You can do the essay first, but be careful with your time. Leave enough time for the task 1. Some people do task 2 first and they spend 50 minutes. They only have 10 minutes for task 1. Then their task 1 is very bad and it pulls down the whole score. So up to you. Try it both ways when you're practicing and see which works better for you. Okay, so let's just review. What are the examiners looking for? The 4 things. They're looking at your task response. So answering the question. This becomes very important for the essay. Structure, paragraphs, must have paragraphs, usually 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6. Linking words, also very important in the essay. Your vocabulary. So the essay, academic or general, we're using more formal language. Yeah, not the contractions, not the idioms, more formal language. And our grammar matters again in the essay. Okay, so why don't I talk about words? So what should you do? If you're doing computer-based, you have a word count. But you're doing paper-based, what should you do? Should you count your words? Don't count your words. That's a waste of time. So instead, count how many words you do on one line and work out how many lines you need to do. Yeah, don't waste time counting the words. Okay, all right, so let's get into the task 2. So the way that the topics are, we're going to first look at analyzing the topic and staying on the topic. 250 words is a very short essay, right? I mean, it feels like a lot when you're rushing in the test, but it's actually a very short essay. So you must stay on the topic and be relevant. Yeah, so the topic is divided into these 2 parts. Okay, so there's the first bit, which is like the topic or what it's about. And then this bottom bit is what we call the instructions or the question. Okay, so both of these parts are important, but personally, I usually look at the bottom first. I look at this first because it tells me what I have to do. Remember, IELTS is always about following instructions. So this tells you what your instructions are. So what extent do you agree or disagree? This is your job in this essay. How much do you agree or disagree with this statement? So let's read what we're agreeing or disagreeing with. Some people believe that unpaid community service should be a compulsory part of high school programs. For example, working for a charity, improving a neighborhood, or teaching sports. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So our job here is to decide, like, how much do I agree with this? Do I mostly agree, mostly disagree, that kind of thing. And so usually what I suggest you do is when you get the topic, say it to yourself in your own words. Yeah, restate it in the way that you understand. So what does this mean? This means that at all high school, all students have to do compulsory. So they must do volunteer work. That's what it means. So what do you think if I ask you, do you agree or disagree? Let me know what if I agree for both? I'm not sure what you mean. You agree? Yeah, it's fine. You can have any position, but remember this compulsory, so they must do it. So Nurul highly agrees. Okay, Julius disagrees. You don't have to have an absolute answer. In fact, you shouldn't, because this is extent. So how much? Do you mostly agree, partially agree, mostly disagree? In the middle. Okay, so you agree and then that would be probably partially agree and partially disagree. Okay, so great. So you all have a position now. Okay. Now let's look at another type of topic. So remember, we have the topic and then we have the instructions. So sometimes the instructions, how many things do we have to do in this essay? How many questions or instructions do we have? You can take a partial agree or disagree, that's fine. It's up to you, as long as you can argue it. 2, yeah, there are 2 things we have to do in this type of essay, right? So what? So many countries, very few young people follow the news. What do you think are the causes? So this is like why? Why do people not follow the news? And here we've got, what can we suggest? So ideas to encourage more young people to follow the news. Yeah, so we have 2 jobs here. Why? And then our suggestions. Okay, so Rezu, you're asking me about structure. We're going to get to that in a minute. So hold on, I'll come to that. Okay, so I just want you to get used to looking at the question types and recognizing that there is a topic and there are instructions. Okay, so we really have to look at our instructions because that will tell us what to do. Every essay, you are told to do this, give reasons and examples. So every single IELTS essay, we must think of reasons and examples. That's always our job. And at least 250. There's no maximum. You can write a lot more, but manage your time. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to get you to do now is part of task response, analyzing the question so you stay on the topic. Okay, so remember this one we just looked at about the news, the causes. So what's wrong with this answer? I mean, apart from the fact that it's too informal and it may be a bit simplistic, but what about actually following the instructions? What's the problem here? Yes, Charmaine, it's giving their opinion. This is like, they're saying it's not true that people don't read newspapers or watch the news. But did it ask you for your opinion here? Did this essay ask you your opinion? No, it said, what are the causes? What can you suggest? So don't do this. You just follow the instructions. You will get a low mark. It didn't ask you for your opinion. Yeah, so you always must just follow the instructions. Now, how about this one? This is the introduction. It's okay, but there's a bit of a problem with this introduction. It's the same topic. Yes. So when we do the essay, one way to write your introduction is to rewrite the topic like we did for Task 1 Academic. But be careful. This is too similar. And they're also just asking questions, just following the questions. Yeah, it's too close to the topic. So you won't get a very good mark if you just copy the topic. Yeah, so be careful about doing that. Now, someone was asking me about the structure. So I encourage you to take a photo of this slide. I find this slide really helpful. So these, in IELTS, there are different question types, the instructions part. There are some types that often come up, and these ones are ones that often come up. What extent do you agree or disagree? We saw that one, right? Discuss both views. Why, reasons and solutions. So that's like the one we just saw about the news. Disadvantages outweigh the advantages, and why and effect. And so here it tells you the thing about the instructions is it will give you your essay structure. It helps you to have your structure. So when you have agree or disagree, what extent? Remember we were talking about that topic before about the compulsory volunteering. So the structure, a good structure would be your introduction, why you agree, reason 1, and then another reason why you agree or disagree, and then another one just considering the other side, because there's always 2 sides, and then your conclusion. Very nice structure. So if we look at the why is it so, again, you'll have your introduction, you have first reason why, another reason, then you have to consider solutions or suggestions, and then conclusion. Yeah, this slide is very helpful. I agree, Ignatius. I love this slide. I took it from an IDP video, actually. Yeah, so this is very useful. So we're going to go into a bit more in depth. Why is this so is similar to reasons to this? Yeah. Why is this so is reasons, exactly. If you're really okay, so Darlene, if you want to argue only one side, like you totally agree, of course, you don't have to consider the other side, but your reasons have to be very good and very strong. Because really, if you think about it, every topic you can have two sides. But if you really don't want to think about the other side, I guess yeah, okay. But it's harder to get a high score if you don't consider the other side. But it's up to you. I mean, if you don't want to, you don't have to. All right. So please take a photo of this or screenshot. Okay, so let's move on and look at some of, we're not going to look at all of them because we don't have time, but we're going to look at some of the main ones. So this is a very common type. So remember, here we have our topic and here we have our instructions. Okay, so discuss both these views and give your own opinion. This is very common type. How many things do you have to do in this essay? So we're going to talk about the introduction in a minute. Yes, there are 3 things we have to do. Looks like 2, but actually 3. Both these views. So view 1, view 2, and our opinion. That's what we have to do. Now let's look at what we're dealing with. Some people think that wild animals should not be kept in zoos. Others believe that there are good reasons for having zoos. Okay, so view 1. Don't put the animals in the zoo. So I always just say it in my own words so I understand. No animals in zoos. View 2, no, zoos, there are good reasons for having zoos. So that's view 1 and view 2. You have to think of your own opinion. What is your opinion? What do you think? Maybe it's a bit of both. Like, actually, you don't really believe in zoos, but maybe sometimes zoos are important. Whatever you think, okay? Now, there's a question about whether you give your opinion in the introduction. 2 options. You can or you cannot, but you need to restate it. Anyway, so let's have a look at the structure. So this is the topic. So introduction. Okay, we'll talk about what goes in the introduction soon. You can put your opinion there very briefly. So then we talk about view 1, no zoos, reasons and examples. View 2, zoos sometimes are important. Reasons and examples. Now, remember, you need examples. You don't need an example for every single reason, but you need at least a few examples. Then your own opinion again, and give some reasons why. So in the introduction, you won't say why it's your opinion. You can state your opinion, but not why. And then conclusion. Okay. You can have a neutral stand after discussing both sides. Yeah, a neutral stand is often a safe way, like a bit of this and a bit of that. Of course, it's totally fine. All right, so let's have a look at this model. So this model, I like this because this is not a perfect essay. This is a band 7. So as we look at it, you'll see there are some grammar mistakes and there are some spelling mistakes. It shows you what a band 7 looks like. Okay, so, but I first just want to think about the structure. So here's the introduction. So it's just a general statement about zoos all over the world, tourist attraction. And so you can start like that, a general statement about zoos. And then there's the opinion. They are putting the opinion here, but very briefly, I believe they should not be kept in zoos, okay? So this is actually, they talked about view 2 first. There are many good reasons for having zoos. Okay, so can you see the structure? There is a topic sentence. It tells you what this essay is about. There are many good reasons for having zoos. Yeah, so we talk about why this is actually view 2, good reasons for having zoos. And then this is view 1. Many people feel wild animals should be free. And then there are the reasons here. And here is the opinion and the reasons for the opinion. And here is the conclusion. So this is a very nice structure, very clear. You can make opinion and conclusion into one paragraph. Yes, you can, Trong, as long as you have enough words. Your opinion can be the conclusion, but you might need more words. The conclusion is really a summary of everything. Yeah, but your opinion can be the conclusion if you have enough words. Okay, so important when we remember what the examiner is looking at this, cohesion and coherence. So there are some nice examples in this essay, a band 7 essay, that, like it says here, glue the essay together. So they've highlighted some: at present and them. This is nice because what is them referring to? What is them referring to? Can you change in conclusion to in a nutshell? I actually don't like in a nutshell because it's kind of like an idiom. It's not very formal language. If you really want to use it, you could, but it's not a formal essay language to me. Yeah. Wild animals, that's right. Them is referring to the wild creatures. This is good to do this. Instead of repeating wild creatures again, we use them. Yeah. So most importantly, so here's another linking word, introducing a reason. Yeah. And therefore here, for example, remember we have to give examples. And here's the other side, however, because, also another reason. Both views put forward valid points. So this is the opinion, however, in conclusion, although. Yeah, so these are nice linking words, particularly for a band 7. Okay, so if you question, what kind of examples should we give? Yes, great question. So your examples need to support your reason. Okay, so rare species, so here we go. Rare species like Chinese panda, Indian tiger, African rhino, for example, are endangered. And if we had no zoos, they would die. Okay, so this is like real examples to support why zoos are important. Yeah, so your example should be quite brief. It can be real. It should be real. It can be from your own life, but don't tell a long story. I'll show you some more examples of examples, okay? The example should be there to support your reason. Why is this a 7? It is a 7 because it has, it's not as developed as a band 8 or a band 9. I'll show you. And there are grammar and spelling mistakes in this as well. But the reasons are quite good. Yeah. You can use first person. So you can use I. Yep, that's fine. You can use I if you want to. See, there's I here. I feel, I strongly believe. All right, so there's a big long question here about disadvantages outweigh. We're going to look at that in a minute. So I'm not going to answer your question yet. All right, so, okay. So remember that the examiner is looking at your flow, cohesion and coherence, the glue that makes it flow. All right, so that's one type of essay. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. Can you use you and we? Probably, but it wouldn't be so normal to use. Maybe you would use we. There's no rules about what you can and can't use. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at another topic. This is the one that advantages and disadvantages, okay? So remember, this is your instructions and here is your topic. So some people prefer to live in a house. Others think it's better to live in an apartment. Do the advantages of living in a house outweigh, rather than an apartment, outweigh the disadvantages? Yeah. Do the advantages of living in a house rather than an apartment outweigh the disadvantages? Okay. Can you mention your own experience? Yes, of course you can in your example, but it needs to be brief, not a long story. Okay. So our topic here, how many things do we have to do here? Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? 4. We don't really need to do 4. It's kind of like 2 in a way, like advantages and disadvantages, really. You don't have to get overly complex because remember the essay is only 250 words. All right, so if we think about our structure, so this part will always give us our structure. So we start with our introduction. And in this kind of essay, we need to give our position. So because asking us, do the advantages living in a house rather than an apartment outweigh the disadvantages? So we have to say what we think. So what do you all think? Are there more advantages living in a house rather than an apartment? What do you feel? Tell me. Yes. So some people feel, yes, it's better to live in a house. House has more advantages. Okay. Yeah. Some people say no. Yeah, you can say no, definitely. You can say it doesn't outweigh the disadvantages. It's better in an apartment. But you just have to decide what your position is, and you put that in the introduction. Okay, so then you have to give reasons and examples. So for those of you who like the house, can you give me some reasons? Some people are doing that. Natisha, privacy, you can make your own decisions. Space, yes, all of those things. So what are the advantages of living in a house? Space, privacy, what else? Independence. Yep, freedom, garden, yes. And so I always think it's good to consider the other side. I mean, even though there might be more advantages to a house, what could be like the disadvantages of a house? Cost, yeah, maintenance. And why might an apartment be better? Facilities, yeah, that's right, exactly. Houses are more costly, exactly. And then your conclusion, you'll just summarize everything. All right, so let's have a look at a model. So this, remember I said that one was a 7. This is a higher level. This is probably an 8. You'll see the difference in the language and the complexity of the sentences and the vocabulary. All right, so we think about the introduction. Everyone wants to live in comfort. So again, we're just saying a general comment about houses and apartments. Some people find independent houses more convenient. Others prefer apartments. Their position, I believe living in an apartment is more advantageous for several reasons. To start with, so here's the first reason. Culture of nuclear families, life is more stressful. And see, here's an example. For instance, most apartments have housekeeping facilities. Okay, so that's their first reason. Can you see the next linker? Additionally, apartments are gated communities and more secure. Here's an example. Yeah. And then can you see the next reason? How do they introduce the next reason? Furthermore, here's another reason. Apartments have common facilities. Some of you mentioned that. This results in lots of time savings. Yep. And now at least they're considering the other side. However, living in an independent house does have its advantages. Spacious, use, modify space. Then conclude here. Okay, so there was a question that I didn't quite understand. The first paragraph provides 3 sentences. There's no rule about how many sentences in any paragraph. It's just what each paragraph is about. It has to be clear that, okay, the introduction is like a general statement and your position. The next paragraph are the reasons why you think there are more advantages. Just that your paragraph shouldn't be too long. 4 to 6 lines. If it gets longer than that, make a new paragraph. Okay, so yeah, okay. Now we're going to do one more, and we're going to kind of go through from the start to the end. So there's a question here. Is all in all a formal or informal word? Expression, all in all. It's a little bit informal, but it's okay. If you wanted to conclude that way, that's all right. When you write about the position you disagree with, will it be all right to keep it short? Yeah, it can just be like one reason, but you need to give a reason and sort of explain the reason. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look. We're going to work through one. Ooh, running out of time. Okay, another topic. So every year, thousands of students go overseas to study. So, I mean, I think that, okay, people are asking me about how long should the disagreeing, like the other side paragraph should be. Let's go back. See, this one is this long. They're considering the other side. 3 lines. That's fine. At least you're considering the other side. Yeah, if you don't want to consider the other side, you don't have to. I just think it's better. It shows that you can argue both sides. It makes your essay stronger, I think. But you don't have to do it. It's up to you. All right, so let's look at this topic. Every year, thousands of students go overseas to study. Although many benefit, others go home disappointed. What are the benefits and drawbacks of studying in another country? So here's our instructions. How many things do we have to do? 2. Yeah, this is quite a straightforward one. All right, so let's think about our structure. Yeah, so we'll have our introduction. We have to talk about benefits. We have to talk about drawbacks. So we'll have our benefits, reasons, and examples. We'll have our drawbacks, reasons, and examples, and our conclusion. This is quite a straightforward essay. So the next thing I really encourage you to do in the test is to brainstorm. Spend about a minute or 2 minutes thinking of your benefits and drawbacks. This will give you a much stronger essay. So let's do it together now. So what are some of the benefits of studying in another country? Try to think of three different ones. This will make your essay really good. Exposure, yeah, exposure to different cultures. Learning how to be independent, fantastic. Networking, yes, these are all 3 fantastic ones already. Networking, enhance your education, broaden your horizons, fantastic. New culture, fabulous. Great, so you've got your 3 reasons already. Now, what are the drawbacks to studying? Expensive, yes, it can be very expensive. Homesickness, definitely. Far from your family, yep. Culture shock, yes. Cultural shift, loneliness, yes, all those things. So these are just ones I thought of, similar to yours. Exposure to other cultures, independence, networking. But there can also be culture shock, sometimes discrimination in other countries, distractions, like you going to another country, no parents, woohoo, let's party, maybe. Okay, so please do that. Please brainstorm like that. It will make your essay much, much better because you have your nice, clear reasons there. All right, so we have our structure, but we have to think about each paragraph. How do we structure the paragraphs? Let's talk about introduction. So introduction, you can either rewrite the topic or you can say a general statement about the topic. Then body, each paragraph, a very clear way to do it is to have a topic sentence, a reason, and either an example or expand on your reason. And then your conclusion, just summarize all the points in one paragraph. So introduction, this is one way to do it for this topic. So this is our topic. We can literally rewrite each word. So every year, annually, thousands of students, a vast number of students, go overseas, venture abroad to study, to pursue their studies. Okay, literally change the words like that, but don't copy the topic. Then you can have this sentence, this is optional. In this essay, both the positive and negative aspects of overseas study will be considered. You can have that to say what you're going to do in the essay, but you don't have to. So another way to do the introduction is to just say a general statement about overseas study. So these days, it often seems that almost every second new graduate attained their qualification abroad. Many of these students find the study experience rewarding, some are less satisfied. Okay, so it's more just like a general statement about overseas study. Okay, so that's your introduction. Now, body. So paragraph 1, remember our first job is to talk about the benefits. So we have to think about, so each paragraph, it's good to have a topic sentence, what this paragraph is about, then the reason, and then the example. So can you see the topic sentence? Where's my topic sentence? It's usually the first sentence. Studying abroad offers students a number of benefits. So the examiner knows, oh, this paragraph is about the benefits. Okay, so here's my first reason with a linker. Firstly, and I just take my reasons from the brainstorm. Remember the first reason was exposure? Firstly, it facilitates exposure to new and diverse cultures. Students can not only immerse themselves in the lifestyle and traditions, but may have opportunity to discover worldviews. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first, oops. And then here's my second reason. In addition, being alone and having to solve issues of day-to-day living can foster a strong sense of resilience and independence. For example, negotiating rent, transport, and food will teach a young person valuable skills. So here's an example. It's quite short, but it's just proving my reason. So I'm saying that my reason is that studying overseas will teach you to be independent. So my example is examples of that: negotiating rent, transport, and food. Yeah. So, okay. So Nitisha, you're asking about advantages outweigh. You have to say what your position is. If you say that you want 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages, you'll have to say that they don't outweigh. You have to say that there are equal number of advantages and disadvantages. Yeah, you can say anything as long as you make your position clear. Okay, so can you see how I structured, coming back to this essay? Got my topic sentence, my first reason, and an example. Then my second reason and an example. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm looking at the other side. How can I paraphrase outweigh? So outweigh means you don't have to paraphrase every single word, really. So if you can't think of a word to replace outweigh, but outweigh is like more advantages than disadvantages. There's not really one word to paraphrase outweigh. Can anyone think of one? Maybe someone else can think of one. Offset. It doesn't mean the same as outweigh, like it's more important than. Yes, so Jude's asking, can you write for instance instead of for example? Yes, please vary it. So sometimes use for instance, for example, an example of this. Try not to repeat the same language over and over. Okay, so here we've got the other side, right? Remember our next job was to talk about the the drawbacks. Yeah, so here's my topic sentence. Conversely, there are several drawbacks. One of these, so here's the first one, confronting sense of culture shock, and an example. Here's my second one. Further, a very dynamic environment in a foreign location might lead to distractions. And then I explain. So sometimes we don't actually have to say, for example, we can just explain more. So nightlife, other young people, and relative anonymity may be irresistible. Yeah, okay. So that's the other side, the drawbacks. Now the conclusion. So we just summarize everything, all the points. In conclusion, opting to complete tertiary studies abroad can offer increased exposure, opportunities, independence. However, it cannot be denied that overseas studies can also lead to culture shock, distractions. Each person needs to consider their own temperament and circumstances. Okay, so that's kind of a going through how to do the whole essay. All right, good. So can I say A is dominant? I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. All right, so we've got some good examples instead of outweigh. Eclipsed, outnumbered, yeah, better off. Yeah, all those we could use. Yep. Now, remember, so now we've talked a lot about task response, analyzing the question and answering the question and having good reasons and brainstorming. And then we've got our structure. So thinking about the 4 or 5 paragraphs and thinking about topic sentence, reason, example. Yeah. So now we need to think about the other 2, your vocab and your grammar. These ones you have to work on a bit by yourself. So what I suggest you do is write an essay, do one, and then show it to someone who you think has really good English. Get them to look at your grammar mistakes and vocabulary, maybe spelling, and point out what you did wrong. You will start to learn what your habits are, what kinds of things you do. And then you can work on those. And it takes a bit of time. Vocab, the best way to really improve your vocab is by reading and also looking at models. Models will help you with your vocabulary. Yeah, you need to, there are also quite a lot of apps. There's something called the academic word list. Yeah, academic word list. I'll type that in there. So if you want So it's supposed that if you know that list of words, you'll do well in the IELTS. And there are often exercises to practice those. Okay, sorry, we're going to run out of time, so I need to go through this. So vocab. Now, with your vocab, one part of it is what we call collocations, words that go together nicely. So in English, we can say make an offer, accept an offer, dismiss an offer, heavy traffic, moderate traffic. All these are fine. Close my eyes, close the door, close a deal. What about with change? What can I put together with change? So quick change, sudden change, that sounds fine. What else? Rapid change, significant change. Yes, all those are good. Changeover, major change, inevitable change. That's very nice. Yes, all of that is fine. But we can't say a thin change, a blue change, a pretty change. So be careful with this collocation, words that sound good together in English. You can also Google collocation practice. Drastic change, very nice. Okay, so another thing that's under your vocab is your spelling. So some of us are very bad at spelling. You can find apps to help you practice your spelling and you'll improve quite quickly. Because it's a formal essay, we don't want to use very informal words. So have a look at these. What are wrong with these? So I'll just put cope up with. What's wrong with that? This is a collocation error. What should it be? It's cope with. Yeah, no up. Dude, what's wrong with dude for the essay? It's too informal, yeah? Result to. This is collocation as well. It doesn't result to, it results in. Or the result of, yes, it could be of. Supposed to be and taken care of. So these are some common things, common kinds of mistakes with collocating. Right. So here remember that one we looked at, the Band 7 essay? So it has some nice collocations. Tourist attraction, that sounds correct in English. Alternative ways, rare species, sounds very nice in English. Educational importance, natural habitat. Yeah, and some more unusual vocabulary, cruel, underestimate. So if you want 7 or more, you do need some more unusual words like these. Underestimate, cruel, endangered, precious. Yeah, so this is good vocabulary. Grammar, yes. So we want to try to use more complex sentences. Remember we said that at the start? So here we have two sentences. Global warming is a phenomenon. It is caused by increased carbon emissions. Both those sentences are fine. But can you see it just sounds better if you join them? Global warming is a phenomenon which is caused by increased carbon emissions. Ooh, it sounds more complex straight away and it's a higher level. Yeah, with this relative clause actually, yes. Okay, so two together, it's very good. If you're really good at grammar, you can join like 3 ideas like this. World Climate Change Summit was held in Copenhagen, 2009. World Climate Change Summit was designed to reach an agreement, expired, right? So you could say it like this. The World Climate Change Summit held in Copenhagen was designed to reach an agreement to replace the earlier Kyoto Agreement, which was due to expire. Yeah, so you just one long sentence, but be careful. If your grammar is fantastic, you can do this, but if your grammar is just like not so great, if you make it too complex, there will be too many errors. So we always need to balance errors and complexity. So often joining 2 sentences is enough. So let's have a look at some grammar mistakes. There's some questions here. So while I just answer these questions, have a look. This is that Band 7. There are some grammar mistakes here. Can you spot any? If you can spot one, say which paragraph it's in and what it is. You can type in the chat. Have a look. If I do not get minimum words, will I still get Band 6? You need to hit your 250. Yeah, it will affect the score otherwise. Question asks for benefits and drawbacks. Yeah, if the question asks for benefits and drawbacks, there's a plural there, isn't it? Benefits, drawbacks. So you can't just have one reason. You need at least 2 and maybe 3. Yeah, not just one. That's a good question. Okay, there is not. Paragraph 3. Let's have a look. Where is there? How many people feel that wild animals should be free? They should not be kept in cages in small areas in zoo. Oh, here's one. Only one zoo? In zoos. This is cruel for the animals, and they often die because they is not. Oh, they are not, right? First paragraph, zoos are tourists. Zoos are a tourist attraction. Yes, zoos are tourist attractions in many countries. Yep. Yeah, good. So you've spotted quite a lot. Yeah, very good. Okay, let's go through some of these errors. Because often errors are of certain types, it's good for you to get to know what errors you make. Okay, I'm going to overrun a little bit. It's almost time. So if you need to go, I totally understand. But I will probably be like 5 extra minutes. So if you want to stay, I mean, hopefully you'll stay. We're almost done. Yeah, so careful with these articles, the and are. If it's a specific thing, or there's only one, like over the world, there's only one world, the world. The first time we hear something, we usually use a. Visitors get a chance. And for the city, if it's a specific place, then we use the. Yeah, because the area. Cruel for the animal. Yeah, okay, great. Well, you spotted lots of ones. Okay, very good. So that's one type of mistake, what we call articles, a and the. This is another one, wild animals in their country, not at. These small words, in, on, at. Yeah, someone spotted that. So these small words, be very careful. Prepositions, people make a lot of mistakes with those. So plurals. So we frequently see news stories, not just one, many news stories. So be careful with plurals. And then this thing, subject, verb, they are not, they is plural, are not in their natural habitat. So subject, verb is a common mistake as well. Okay, so yeah, so what I suggest, like I said, is show someone your writing, get them to point out your mistakes, and you'll start to learn what you do and how you can improve on that. Yeah, so if you're doing paper-based and you realize, oh, I made a mistake, just cross it out. It doesn't matter. It's fine, no problem. Just cross it out and rewrite it correctly. Totally fine. Okay, so just some final tips. If you're doing paper-based, you can make notes on your question paper. You can underline things. And if you run out of paper, ask for another sheet. You don't have to squish it all in. Yeah, if you're doing computer-based, you can change the size. Yeah, you can make it bigger or smaller, like if you want, if you need the screen, the font to be bigger. Don't have time to write a draft. There's no time. You can brainstorm your ideas, but then you just have to start. Remember not to copy. So when you give your examples, don't give a long story, right? It's not like a story kind of essay. Your example should just prove your reason. Yeah, so remember there was the reason about examples of someone being independent, what they can do. That's a good example to support my reason. Yeah, so please analyze the prompt like we've been doing. Analyze the question, and then that will help to give you your structure. So work out how many things you have to do. Is it 3 things or 2 things? Yeah. And remember in the essay, topic sentence, reasons, and examples. Yeah, so just a checklist. Did you answer all the parts of the instructions? You must have paragraphs, must, 4 or 5. Good linking words. Check your spelling, and working on your vocab takes some time, and try to have more complex sentences. Now, punctuation, we didn't really talk about that. It comes under grammar. So you've got to have your commas, full stops, capital letters. That all does matter. Okay, so just to sum up, remember this essay is worth 66%. So it's worth a lot more. So make sure you have enough time for it. Yeah, really analyze the question carefully. And if it's opinion, then work out, do you agree, disagree? Nice, clear paragraphs, range of vocab, stay on the topic, linking words. Now, if you run out of time, don't write notes or bullet points. You must have full sentences. So if you run out of time, you just have to finish. Yeah, don't do bullets, you will lose marks. So as we talked about, knowing what your mistakes are and spotting them. So here are some resources. So when you sign up to do your IELTS with IDP, you can get access to IELTS Essentials with lots of good materials to help you prepare. There's Facebook community, there are practice tests and tips, blogs. So please maybe take a screenshot or photo of this slide. Also on the IDP website itself, there are lots of preparation materials. And a lot of these slides that I used, I took from the videos from the IDP website. Okay, so yeah, so now we've gone a little bit over, but I'm happy to answer any questions that haven't come up yet. Now, I did want to say planning your schedule. So I saw someone's got their essay in a week. So I would be, from now on, every day, try to do a couple of essays, you know, a task, at least one essay and a task one every day until your test. So you get used to it. Oh, a poll, I forgot about the poll. Just to review what we did. So do you have to write exactly 250 words? Should you count each word? Okay, I'm going to end the poll. So you must write exactly 250 words. No, you must write at least 250 words, but you can write more if you want to. You don't count the words in the test. Yeah, okay, computer-based, as you have a word count. Paper-based, count how many on a line and work out how many lines. If you run out of time, do not use bullet points or notes. You will lose marks. Okay, so there's some questions here. Let me go up. There's a question about when we use, okay, so maybe what I'll say now is I'm going to stay and answer the questions, but if you need to go, totally fine. I'm sorry, it's really quite hard to manage the time in this session, especially when there are 400 of us. So if you need to leave, I wish you all the very best with your writing. I hope you've got a clearer idea of how to structure it and how to stay on the topic. Yeah, and please practice and look at models. Yeah, and I wish you all the very best with your IELTS, and may all your plans for the future come true, and please stay safe and take care. So I'm going to stop my share, but I will answer the questions. Don't worry, I'll stay until we've answered all the questions. Okay, so all right. Let's see. Do we get blank paper and pencil to brainstorm? Yes, when you do computer-based, you're given some blank paper and pencil to brainstorm. That's fine. Now, someone's asking, when do we use a and when do we use the? We use a, like our dog, our cat. We usually use it the first time we hear it. Also for one, the first time. Or something that's, there are many of those. Or could you pass me a pen? I don't mind which one. But when it's specific, the pen on the table, a specific one, then I use the. Or if there's only one in the world, like the internet, the moon, yeah, then we use the. But in English, we have to use a and the usually with when we talk about one thing. Can you make up examples? Yeah, you can make things up. It's okay. I find it better to use real things because sometimes if you make it up, it doesn't really make sense. Computer-based has a word count. You're right. This is a dramatic change. Yeah, that sounds fine. Sounds correct to me. Is it okay to write conclusions without summarizing the ideas? Your conclusion, you need to know what the conclusion's for. So the conclusion is really to summarize everything. Yeah, and then sometimes you can point to the future in the conclusion. You can say, oh, in future, I think this might happen. But I don't know what else you'd put in the conclusion if you didn't summarize, because that's what a conclusion's for. Is this lesson applicable? Oh, school essays. It really depends on what kind of essay you're taught to do at school. So this format is quite useful for most essays. but it works really well for IELTS essays. That's what they want you to do. Okay, thanks everyone for your very kind comments. Let's see, any more questions? I'm just scrolling down. Do we write straight on the sheet? Yeah, you should write straight onto the paper. Don't write a rough draft. You don't have time to do that. Could I explain more on the concession paragraph? Yeah, I feel that even if you agree and you have your reasons why you agree, you should consider the other side, because every topic, there's always two sides, right? Although you agree, you can say, yeah, but on the other hand, some people might think this. Just at least one reason makes the essay stronger. Yes, computer delivered, you have pen and paper. Do you get blank? Yes, okay. Thanks everybody. If you don't understand the topic, usually the topics are tested on many, many people. So they're supposed to be relatable for most people, but you do need to practice, and you also need to start reading the news and following, so you have ideas and opinions. That's important. Okay, better to take IELTS on computer. Yeah, if you're comfortable typing and you're comfortable using a mouse, it might be better to use the computer for your IELTS, but you also have to read. The reading test you also have to do on the computer. Okay, can I add a new word by using small stroke? Yeah, you can add new words. If it's paper-based, you can draw a little arrow up, no problem. Can you have this computer? After completing task 2, can I come back to task 1? Of course you can. Yes, you can go back and forward between the 2 tasks. You've managed that yourself. So the essay that I showed you at the end about drawbacks and benefits of studying overseas, that's probably, yeah, close to a band 9. Yes. So if it's not, yeah, you shouldn't count your words in the test, but there's probably enough time to count your lines in the test. Does computer-based tests have the same time? Yes, exactly the same timing, totally. The examiners actually count the words, they do. Will the examiners know if we use the templates? I think the examiners, those structures that I gave you, they work really well. It's fine to use those, but the language and everything that you use, of course, that's going to be yours. Yeah, but those structures are very good, very clear. Oh, for the reading test, yeah, you can see in the reading test, you can have the article is there for the whole time, and you can jump back and forward in all the parts of the reading test. All right, so I think I'm almost done. Couple of questions in the Q&A. Any complex structures recommended to use? So it's hard to say, like, it's always good to use complex structures. So remember I said at the start, things like although, even though, however, and if, using if sentences, but using things like whereas, while, these are all good complex structures. Yeah. Is there a specific exam profession, like say nursing? I'm not sure what you're asking, Maricel. Can I suggest some practice tools for IELTS? Yes, we'll have a look at the IELTS Essentials, which you can access once you register with IDP. Also, the IDP website, IDP IELTS website is very good. Yep. And then, okay, one question here, a couple more. Can we use single quotes? Can't for cannot. I wouldn't use that in the essay because it's more formal language, but you can use it in the letter if you're informal letter. Just to clarify, we should write task 2 in third party point of view. You can use third party, like people should do, or you can give your opinion using I believe. That's fine as well. Both are fine. Okay, is it better to use personal, general examples or a mix? It really depends. As long as your example supports your reason, that's the most important thing. yeah, you can make up an example, but as long as it supports your reason, as long as it really proves your reason. Okay, I think I've come to the end of all the questions. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so pleased that you have so much interest. Take care. And I hopefully see you again sometime, or I really wish you all the very best. And I want to thank the wonderful team, as always, who are so on it and organized. Patrick, Lilette, and Sarah, and anyone else I've missed. Yeah, from IDP. Thank you so much.
That is all for tonight. We hope we were able to answer all your queries, but if not, please message them to us directly and we will get back to you with a response. You may send your inquiries to sea.ielts@idp.com. Thank you to all of you for tuning in, and a huge thank you to Miss Jackie for walking us through today's webinar and answering your question. For those who will take their IELTS test after August 16, we are inviting you once again for a masterclass webinar focusing on 4 components of the IELTS test. Have a great night all. Goodbye.